across the line in first place. At the end of lap 1, there was a bit of drama. Andreas Simonsen ran wide, Dominic Baumann was on the attack, but behind it was Cesar Campanico who speared into the barriers, crashing his Audi R8 heavily. He was out of the race and out of the car okay, as his teammate Carlos Vieira watched on. It was a problem with the ABS that sent the Audi spearing into the crash barrier and unfortunately into a photographer as well. He managed to escape though with only a broken leg. The red flags came out, the race was brought to a stop, but on the restart nothing could stop Max Buch. There was great squabbling throughout the pack as Simonsen and Baumann continued to go side by side. Wolfgang Reip trying to take advantage but unable to get through. The Nissan was on a charge, Alex Buncombe sweeping past the number 10 McLaren as Mike Parisi ran wide. And then there was a great move from Matthias Stump, finding the inside line and going past Felipe Salaquada. Salaquada then lost out to the Team Brazil BMW as well. Andreas Simonsen then, all on his own, managed to spin at the first corner, knocking him a long way back down the field. And then Ricardo Zonta, with an ambitious move on Salaquada, tapped the Ferrari into a spin. Beached in the gravel, his race was over. At the pit stops, Buch handed over to his teammate Israeli Alan Day, and they came out well in the lead of the chasing Audis. The two Audis were actually getting pretty close and had to be told to calm down a little bit by the pit wall so that they didn't take each other out. Alain Coder was pushing hard to try and pass the Nissan, now in the hands of Alex Buncombe, and finally the BMW's attempts paid off. A great move around the outside, a bit of body rubbing, but the Brazilian was through. The checker flag fell though for Maximilian Buch and Alan Day, who won for the first time this season in FIA GT. Stepping up this season is reigning GT3 champion Maximilian Buch, making his debut in FIA GT Series.
There is no doubt that this young hot rod is going to rattle the cage of the establishment in FIA GT.
Great performance from Buch, third on his debut in Nogaro. Third race of the season here in Zandvoort. The Audi on pole, Buch in second. Lights go green, away we go. It's a good start from Buch. Is he going to take the advantage and get past the Audi? Buch leads.
Buch has made good use of the power of the Mercedes off the line to slot the Mercedes into the lead into turn 1.
Maximilian Buch and teammate Alan Day take the win in round 3 of the FIA GT Series. At BMW Team Brazil, hopes are pinned high for this weekend in Slovakia because the BMW should suit this 5.9-kilometre circuit. Caca Bueno and Alain Coder have been the team's strongest pairing this season so far.
The 2012 race here with BMW, the performance was very good, but I think was a little bit of difference between these years and last year of engine and tires, but I think it's the best track for us.
At Mercedes, it was a very successful weekend in Zandvoort for Alan Day and Maximilian Buch, taking the win in the main race. And whilst a lot of attention's been put on Buch, Alan Day has put his mark on the season as well.
You know, immediately after the win, we think about the next race, we think about the championship. We know Slovakia ring should be fit quite good for the Mercedes. We push as hard as we can, you know. Hope we're going to be there. It's possible. We will give everything, me and Maxi.
Times have been tough and well documented for Sebastien Loeb and Alvaro Parent. But in the second car, things haven't gone much better. But Mike Parisi is very confident this weekend, having won here back in 2011.
We had a very good feeling this morning on Slovakia ring, I think, and we hope that it's a very good track for McLaren. We are quite confident. We have to push because the level is very high in this series, but we have perhaps a car to play this today and this weekend.
WRT are the current teams leaders and driver leaders, Stephane Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor, topping the standings as we left Zandvoort. But in the number 13 car, it's been a more difficult season for Frank Stippler and Edward Sandstrom after they won the opening round at Nogaro.
The track suits the car quite well, and it looks like we had a decent day today. Unfortunately, Frank had some traffic in the last corner in Q2, and that affected his result, and he couldn't do the Super Pool because we were 11th. But in the end, Rust was on pole and Fanto was 4th. So it's like usual for us. We have to fight a little bit, but that's normal. So I'm confident.
Reiter Engineering are fielding 2 Lamborghinis this weekend. Marc Basseng returns to the series alongside Albert von Turnen Taxis, whilst in the sister car Peter Cox is alongside home man Stefan Racina, looking to impress at his local circuit.
To be honest, it is really difficult to say how is it going to be, in a way, because obviously this championship is very tough. And I think also some other brands are now in form, but to be honest, I'm happy to be driving a Lamborghini, and I have a great teammate, great team crew, so I think all ingredients are there. Now just we need some luck, and hopefully we can make it to some nice result.
Unfortunately, there's only one Nissan here this weekend. After Alex Bunkum's big crash at the Spa 24-hour race, the RGN team will just be fielding one machine with Bunkum and Wolfgang Reip at the wheel.
For this weekend, I think we're going to try to do as well as in Spa, podium in category. I think the track will probably be the best track in FIA GT for the car. The first part of the track is very fast, and that's good for us. The infield is going to be a little bit more tricky as there are 2 small hairpins, but I think it's a good package for us.
There's a second AF Corsa Ferrari this weekend as well. Claudio Stanovic and Michele Rugolo will be in the Gentleman's Trophy, whilst as ever in the Pro-Am Cup, Philippe Salaquada will be partners with Fabio Anidi. Salaquada is confident, having won here last season.
Last year we did well, I think, so I have good memories for this circuit, which is almost home place. Our speed is quite okay, but just we're struggling a little bit with the tires because the temperature is very hot, which is not good for us. Our goal is to get in Superpole and to be somewhere in the front to start the race.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Slovakia ring. We are here just outside of Bratislava for the 4th round of this 2013 FIA GT Series. We've got the qualifying race coming up for you now before the main race comes up later on today. It's going to be very entertaining, there's no doubt about that. Track temperature almost 50 degrees, 24.7 degrees the air temperature. It doesn't feel humid though, John, does it? It's quite a cool heat, if that makes any sense.
Normally in Central Europe at this time of year, it'd be just the sweat would be pouring off you, but what we've got is relatively dry heat. Great for the racetrack, great for the drivers, great for the tyres.
Here's a look at the grid then. René Rast will start on pole position with Stefan Racina alongside in the red Lamborghini. Then we've got the first of the HTP Mercedes, Sergei Afanasiev. Best qualifying performance of the season so far for the BMW Team Brazil squad. Caca Bueno will start in 4th place. There's last weekend's winners. The number 1 car of Maximilian Buch and Alan Day. Then the first of the McLarens in 8th and 9th positions, sorry, 8th and 10th positions, the 2 McLarens after they qualified 2nd and 3rd, but because of a qualifying infringement, not getting out of the pits at the right time, they were demoted all the way down to the lower reaches of the top 10. Same can be said as well of the Stephane Ortelli Audi. There's the 2 AF Corsa Ferraris side by side on the 7th row of the grid. Jan Seyfarth and Patrick Kuna. Roman Ibrahim in the BMW alongside Cesar Campanico, who are very frustrated this weekend. Sergio Jimenez down in 19th place after that car has struggled with gearbox and engine problems all weekend. And then Hubert Haupt will start the 2nd Seyfarth Mercedes at the back of the grid. So the red lights are on when they go green. The race will be underway and round 4 of this FIA GT Series will begin. There's plenty of space for the cars as the lights go out. Away we go. Who's going to get the best getaway? It's so difficult to tell. It's such a wide circuit. They're going 3, 4, 5 abreast even at some points. But René Rast is, I think, who has held the lead on the run down into the first corner. It looks like it might be. Look at all the way around the outside. Has come Alvaro Parent from 8th on the grid. The number 50 AF Corsa Ferrari's gone into the gravel. But how far up the order has Parent managed to get there? Phenomenal attempt from him. He's up into 2nd place. A piece of bodywork flying up high into the air as they now have to form into single file to get through the chicane. But Alvaro Parent has gone from 8th on the grid to second in the race. Phenomenal start from the Portuguese driver.
Everybody tends to take the inside line into turn one. If you take the long way round, you've got a clear run and nobody runs out on top of you, you get the position. Alvaro Perez used all that single-seater racing experience to go from 8th to 2nd, and what a great start for the McLaren.
Phenomenal stuff, but it's René Rast there in the number 12 Audi who leads the way. Perez second, third is Racina in the Lamborghini, fourth then is Dominic Baumann in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini, and there you can see the bodywork that has come off Maximilian Buch's car. Well, by bodywork I mean entire bonnet that's gone flying off, so we'll have to see whether that's affecting his progress at all, as we see the Seyfarth Mercedes putting a little challenge on Alex Bunker, but no move being made just yet. There you can see it, bonnetless, and that'll affect the aerodynamics a little bit.
Well, it will have an effect on aerodynamics. Whether it's negative or positive, we'll wait to see. Also, whether that'll be a flag to come into the pitch, whether it is deemed to be unsafe. I can't imagine why not. As they're diving down the inside. Bunkum again under challenge, managing to keep that position.
Jan Seyfarth really getting a little bit racy. Did he make it through? Just trying to look in the background there. I don't think he did. But René Rast is starting to pull away now up at the front. Alvaro Perez second. We're expecting to see some good pace from Alvaro, but we'll wait and see whether that transpires. There's a little bit of damage on the front part of the second Charouz Mercedes, as still Seyfarth is battling hard with Alex Bunkum, unable to get past, and the difficulty for Seyfarth will be that the Nissan is very, very good in a straight line as they exit out onto the start, finish straight then. This is all the battle over 12th position. They've got Fabio Anidi right behind as well. As we come down into turn one, Anidi's actually going to be challenging the Mercedes here. Anidi in the A, of course, a red Ferrari looking to the outside. Try and get the cut back into 2 perhaps, but not quite enough momentum. René Rast, though, crosses the line with a 1.6 second advantage up at the front. Here's the start of the race then. Alvaro Perez dives out very early on when the lights went to red, but you can see he's still not particularly far up the order. He's just on the outside.
But being on the outside, if you're clear enough of the traffic, everybody dives to the inside. If there's room on the outside and you're careful not to, and that's Michele Rugolo getting sort of punched out.
Here we go on board with Perez. Yeah, I think the Mercedes in front had a dab on the brakes just as the lights went green. And behind, the number 2 Mercedes was up into second place by the time they turned through the right-hander. So it'll be interesting to see. If you look on the right-hand side here, the Mercedes is going to be right up in there, that red and white machine.
Yeah, but
Afanasieff.
Yeah, but the trouble is
right in there.
Yeah, but he's off the racing line. That's the dirty part of the racetrack. He has to slow down sooner because he's got a more acute corner. So while he gained position on the run down to turn one, he lost it in the actual entry into the corner, and that's why Alvaro Perez was able to sweep around the outside. There was clear track. All he had to be careful of was people exiting to the corner. There was enough space, there wasn't going to be contact. He's got past.
Lawrence Van Thor has got past Mike Parisi then somewhere on this lap and is now up into 8th position. There's a bit of a smoky issue for the number 6 car of Aman Ibrahim. The BMW, the Team India BMW is not looking too healthy.
That's the left bank of the V8 BMW engine. That's just coming down from turn 9 to turn 10, and something has gone pretty wrong. Now, whether that's simply a engine failure or a oil failure, sometimes you get hydraulic lines that are leaking oil onto an exhaust system. Whatever it is, it's terminal for that BMW India car right now, and disappointment for Ibrahim. In the meantime, Lawrence Van Thor still up into 8th place, pumping out fastest sector 1 time. He's been doing it consistently since the start, so he's made up effectively 1 or 2 places since this race got underway. We're on the 5th car.
Safety car deployed here at the Slovakia ring, presumably not because of that dust cloud, but because of the smoking BMW. So the safety car comes out. That'll be a frustration for René Rast. He'd build up a 3.7 second advantage, and that will now be wiped. Alvaro Perez in 2nd position, Stephane Racina 3rd, Baumann 4th still. Safety car will be in this lap, so racing will be back underway, which will be very entertaining, thankfully. It'll make a change.
The safety car will actually come in after the pit lane opens.
Rast has got on with the program already, hasn't he? He's already at full racing speed. That's caught out Caca Bueno more than anyone in 6th position. He's dropped back quite away from Maximilian Buch behind him. So we're green. The pit stop window is open. Are we going to see anyone have a dive in? Yes, we are. So in comes Dominic Baumann, Maximilian Buch, Caca Bueno as well, and as we thought, Laurens Vanthoor. This is going to be very, very interesting tactically as the cars all rumble past our commentary box here. This is Michele Rugolo going past, or well, battling with Sergio Jimenez, getting the cutback, and Rugolo is about to go past. So the Gentleman Trophy car, which is in the hands of Michele Rugolo, is doing very well. There you can see the pit stop, as we suspected, for Mike Parisi to hand over to Andy Zuber. Here comes the Mercedes. And that's good news in general for the Sebastien Loeb team, because they were a lot further behind.
3 positions behind Maximilian Buch at that point. It
hasn't worked out for the Audis, though, as they come out the pits. Look, the Audi is...
No, don't do that. That's a penalty. You'll be definitely... I mean, to come out of the pit lane like that and just suddenly flick across. That Edward Sandstrom, I suspect, will get a penalty, be it a drive-through penalty.
But he's going to try and go past on the inside on the run-up into turn 2. Got a few wheels on the grass, keeps it in there, and goes past Andy Zuber. He'll now have to make as much progress as possible, because that looked fairly clear-cut, that little cut of the white line on pit lane exit.
Yeah, but that was a schoolboy error. Simply Edward Sandstrom just too anxious to get the momentum and pull out past. And he realised he'd made the mistake and he had to get out of it. But that will not have gone unmissed by... Let's look at it again. We've got the Mercedes, McLaren, then Edward Sandstrom. Wait, he's actually under the rear wing of the McLaren. He just simply...
And then at this point he goes, oh no, and pulls back in. Look, there he goes. He slams on the wheel and goes, oh, I better, no one will notice. Here's Sergio Jimenez in the pits.
I think that 1.7 second gap actually is slightly less, because I think Alvaro Parent and the core on the 12th lap were very close. And is that an unsafe release, or will that be considered just about get away with?
Let's see where they come out. Simonson is going to come out then behind that BMW. That's not good news for him. Here comes the attack from Stephane Ortelli, trying to go past Andres Zuber. And Ortelli goes through, does he? No. Zuber's holding on the outside line, a little bit of contact, but Zuber surely won't be able to hold the outside all the way around turn 2. He'll give it a go, though, but he's not going to manage it, and Ortelli moves through.
The idea off track. What a mess he's making, getting back onto the racetrack.
Yep, Carlos Vieira pulling back onto the circuit after a little moment. Let's have a look.
This is
turn 6. Whoa, there he goes.
I mean, we've seen a couple of Karan Chandra could roll wrong there in practice, and he went way off to the left. We never really found him since. Whereas
Vieira actually spun there in free practice 2 yesterday, so he's struggling with that corner. In comes Alvaro Parent to hand over to Sebastien Loeb.
What they're going to be looking for is a ultra slick pit stop. So Alvaro Parent gets out, the slightly shorter but stocky Sebastien Loeb gets in. All those lessons learned from the opening rounds where Loeb came in for his pit stop to hand to Parent. He undid the seat belts before he got to a stop. Those lessons well learned, and that well-oiled machine that is Sebastien Loeb Racing car off the jacks. There she goes. Good stop, I would say.
Looked pretty decent, didn't it? Away goes Sebastien Loeb now at the wheel of that McLaren, and he's got plenty of track space in front of him, and by the looks of it, plenty of track space behind him. Into the pit comes René Rast, up on the jacks. Wheels get changed.
Of course, Melnhoff is a taller driver than René Rast, so they've got a seat filler to enable the driver change. So Melnhoff gets into the cockpit as we look and see.
Sebastien Loeb coming around turn 13 then. René Rast is going to drop down. That's been a good stop from the WRT guys, and they're right at the end of the pit lane as well. So Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff is going to comfortably rejoin in the lead of the race, but Sebastien Loeb will be up to speed by now and will be closing in on Meyer-Melnhoff before too long, I think. We'll see what kind of pace Meyer-Melnhoff can find, though. Out of the pits here comes the the Lamborghini of Peter Cox, and he has lost out. He's lost 2 positions and is now in 5th place. That car came into the pits in 3rd. It's come out of the pits in 5th.
slightly the pit lane edge.
But it will be fourth, apologies, because a drive-through penalty has just been awarded to the Audi in front of it, car number 13.
I was going to say, what's going to happen, that taking them a little bit of time to come to the judgment that that move by Sandstrom coming out of the pit lane when he came across the pit lane exit line way before he'd even exited the pit lane. So he's going to be penalised for that. Doing it at the earliest possible moment and just make sure on the exit he doesn't cross the white line again. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but it can happen.
And we've got a car off at turn 9. I think that's the second Seyfarth, isn't it? So that's an unfortunate moment for Jensi Michael. We're back up on the focus on the race lead, and Nicky Meyer-Melnhof is now right under pressure from Sebastien Loeb. If these two start battling hard, Alan Day might start to close in as well. But we saw Nicky defending hard here last year, but look at the advantage that Loeb has got. He's got the slipstream. Meyer-Melnhof needs to cover the inside line. He's not going to. Sebastien Loeb is going to take the lead of the race here. The McLaren slides through on the inside, and Sebastien Loeb leads.
Yeah, good planned move by Sebastien Loeb. Looked a little bit tentative from both drivers. Weren't quite sure whether Loeb was going to take the line up the inside, and sort of both of them danced around the head of a pin until it was clear that Loeb had the momentum and he was going to take the position away from Meyer-Melnhof.
And here's a replay of the overtake. It looked fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much classic. You get the slipstream. The main thing is you get alongside the car you're overtaking, and then by being on the inside of the racetrack was able to control the corner, and Nicky Meyer-Melnhof really in new position. Once he let Loeb get alongside, he didn't do anything to try to be aggressive in his defence. He just allowed Loeb to get up the inside, and once he was at that point at the apex of the corner, it was all over. The lead had changed from Audi to McLaren.
And look at this, what happened to Loeb? So, what did Meyer-Melnhof do right? Because Meyer-Melnhof has closed right back in for the lead of the race. I wonder if there was a kerfuffle or something somewhere, because Meyer-Melnhof took 0.3 of a second out of him in both sectors 1 and 2.
Well, I would assume that there's something, Sebastien Loeb has made an error somewhere, because there's no way in one lap that the gap between first and second, and it's not the gap between first and fourth, would be run down in the space of half a lap. So something has gone on circuit. I mean, it's easy, for example, coming over the hill down into turn 10, just to overrun. You're trying to consolidate your lead, and you make one small error, and that just means that Nicky Meyer-Melnhof gains an advantage, but also gains the psychological advantage, knowing that I am applying pressure to this. What's that all about?
That's a bit of extra branding for Blancpain.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if he's being paid for that, but certainly it's getting the message across.
Carlos Vieira with his presumably second off of the day so far. Look at this, here comes Nicky Meyer-Melnhof for the lead of the race, challenging Sebastien Loeb, and he's got the inside line as he coming into 9, not quite close enough, but Nicky Meyer-Melnhof, now he's got into the groove, he is absolutely on it. We thought Loeb would pull away, but now Meyer-Melnhof is right with him, and everyone else is coming too.
Well, all it could be is either a mistake from Sebastien Loeb, or there's a mechanical issue with the McLaren that suddenly has resurrected its head, and now he is under pressure. First of all, for Nicky Meyer-Melnhof, now from the Mercedes. Alan Day. No, not close enough to do it this time.
And that will compromise him throughout the whole of the final corner. Unfortunately for Nicky, he needs to be careful here, because he's got a lot of cars right up behind him as well as they come across the line. Well, here's the look from Alan Day. Is he going to force his way through? He's got enough of an overlap, and Day will surely move up into second place. A bump between them. Meyer-Melnhof is pushed out off the circuit, and he goes from second to 5th. Difficult, really, to see whether that was unnecessary from Day or whether he left Meyer-Melnhof enough room. But now Nicky is down into 5th place, and you can imagine the rage inside the cockpit now.
Let's have a look at it again.
It's a good move initially.
It's a good move.
8.
In fairness, it's a move that he dives down the inside. He gets the Mercedes. At that point, he's only, well, no further than the driver's door, but is increasing the position. The bump actually occurs more on the exit, at which point the two cars are pretty much side by side.
Well, the incident is now under investigation. It's all getting interesting behind, because Nicky Meyer-Melnhof has slid off the circuit at the Blancpain chicane. Here comes the attack from Andy Zuber around the outside. Zuber goes through up into 5th place, and now Meyer-Melnhof will have Harry Procek behind to deal with, and Procek and Simonsen in the Lamborghini and the Mercedes are also battling over the lead of the Pro-Am class, which is important stuff for them. So there's plenty of action still going on. The BMWs from Team Brazil. Whoa, Harry Procek, is he heading towards the gravel there? No, keeps it all together, but Simonsen is going to get through, is he? He'll have the outside line for the next corner, though. And Harry Procek just about holds on to the lead of Pro-Am. Here comes Simonsen. A little bit of a touch. Simonsen through into the lead of Pro-Am, up into 7th place.
Here's the Lamborghini. Here the back end goes out. Look, one way, then back the other way. And that whole momentum lost. And there's the Mercedes up the inside, going through this very long turn 6. But the Lamborghini then is on the inside for 7, coming down to 8, until the Mercedes dives up almost into invisible. There's not barely much contact there. That might be considered to be an avoidable incident.
And a drive-through penalty for Alan Day for causing contact with Niki Meyer-Melnoff. Now, is that smoke from the Lamborghini, or is that just a spin?
Well, I think it's a smoke, because the car did spin, but he's got the car turned round. But if you notice that the Lamborghini, a lap ago, look at the rubber he lays on, the back of the car was all over the place coming up into turn 6, and I suspect it's the legacy of that problem that's caught him out. In fact, it's not a mechanical, it's a driver issue.
Somewhere out there on the circuit, Stephane Ortelli is now up into 3rd place. He's got past Peter Cox. Here they come down into turn 1. Ortelli is into 3rd. Cox is down to 4th. That will change when Alan Day has his drive-through penalty. But somewhere out there, Stephane Ortelli has made the move and is up into what will become 2nd position.
Let's have a look and see what happened again. This is the replay.
He gets the move done.
I don't think there's any significant contact at this point.
There.
The contact comes when they're side by side there. Now, whether that was deemed to be deliberate.
As into the pits now for the drive-through penalty comes number 1, Alan Day. That means Sebastien Loeb comes across the line then to continue in the lead of the race, but Ortelli is up into 2nd position. Peter Cox is up into 3rd. Andy Zuber will cross the line into 4th place. 5th now will be Meyer-Melnoff. Red flag being held out to Alan Day. I don't know what that's about, but he's allowed to get on his way. So, don't really know what that was about, but he's coming out now in 11th position, I believe, behind Edward Sandstrom. And Alvaro Parent unwilling to celebrate until Loeb finally crosses the line, which he's about to do. Through the right-hander. He's yet to win a main race here in FIA GT. That may come this afternoon, but it's the 2nd qualifying race win of the season in the 4th round of the championship here at the Slovakia ring for Sebastien Loeb and Alvaro Parent. Across the line comes Stephane Ortelli to take 2nd place, just ahead of Peter Cox. Good battle between those two throughout the race. And Andy Zuber coming across the line in 4th place. Into the pits comes Loeb. And we'll be having a word with him in a few moments' time. Sebastien climbs out of the car after taking his 2nd race win of the season, but no main race victory just yet. Seems pretty happy though. So there we can see Loeb.
Sebastien, yes. Congratulations. What's it like to be back on the winner's podium?
Yeah, very good. Very good start. It feels good. We've done a great job with Alvaro. He has done an incredible start from the 8th place to the 2nd place in the 1st corner, so that was incredible. And from that, we managed to keep the contact with the lead. Finally, in my stint, I was able to overtake the first one. So, starting from 8, we were not so happy yesterday. So now, winning the first qualifying race is good, and it's good to have this kind of feeling, because we were used since a few races not to be lucky. So now it seems to be over.
Here's a look at the results then after 27 laps of racing, about 20 minutes of which was behind the safety car. Sebastien Loeb and Alvaro Parent took the victory, 4.7 seconds clear of Stephane Ortelli and Laurence Vanthor in 2nd place. The championship leaders extending their advantage. Peter Cox and Stefan Rossina finishing in 3rd position. Andreas Simonsen won the Pro-Am class. That car in 16th place there. The Stadisvich Brugalo car won the Gentleman's Trophy. But there will be a lot of frustration for Karun Chandok and Jan Seyfarth. A problem exiting the pit lane meant that they finished down in 20th place. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Slovakia ring in the Orachova-Poten region of Slovakia for the 4th round in the 2013 FIA GT Series. It's a fantastic venue, just maybe a 45-minute drive outside the capital city, Bratislava. and it's certainly a circuit that's given us some excellent racing as the crowd stand on their feet for the Slovakian national anthem. Slovakia, of course, a fairly recent country since its separation from the Czech Republic back in 1993. You can see the proud fans getting ready to observe the national anthem. Very hot day here, as you've seen, and here is the Slovakia Ring circuit from above. A fantastic circuit, a new circuit, but it has kind of the old style characteristics. There's not a chicane or hairpin as we know it in sight. Lots of elevation changes as well. Sector 1 and 3 are all about fast, high-speed corners. Sector 2, a little bit more fiddly, a little bit more technical. 14 corners on this 5.9-kilometre circuit really test the drivers, especially in this heat. You can see the drivers down there on the grid waiting to get going. And this is how they will get going in the championship order. Stephane Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor topping the standings at the moment, ahead of Edward Sandstrom and Frank Stippler. Maximilian Buch and Alan Day are third in the championship, ahead of Meir Melnoff and René Rast. Peter Cox and Stephane Ortelli in fifth. And Sebastien Loeb and Alvaro Parent are in sixth place in the championship at the moment. And Alvaro Parent and Sebastien Loeb will be starting on pole position. John Watson is our man on the grid, and he has nabbed Alvaro.
Alvaro Parent, good afternoon. It's a bit warm here today, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely warm, and going to get warmer, you know, on the race. It's just about to start. We're in the best position possible. We had a very strong race this morning. The start was great, you know, we were starting 8th, not feeling great, especially after the small problem issue we had on qualifying yesterday after being 3rd and being dropped down to 8th. I had a really good start and a really good on the brakes into turn 1, you know, got on the best position possible and managed to finish turn 1 in second position. Then Seb, I did the whole stint, the car was looking okay. We were faster than 3rd, maybe not as fast as the Audi right now this weekend, but we'll see, you know, you never know what happens. And then Seb did a great overtaking into first place, and we won the race.
Okay, any tips for Seb for the start and pole position? But remember, there's also a wind has come up. That's changed conditions.
Changed conditions, warmer now. Probably the tires will, for everyone, will last less time, you know, so we'll get worn faster. Yeah, I think we've covered everything, you know. It all depends on your reaction to the lights and the start, you know, and then if you have a good clean stint and a good pit stop. So that's what we're hoping for.
Okay, enjoy it. Thanks very much, Alvaro.
So Alvaro Parent started the qualifying race earlier on today, made a fantastic start, but there you can see the track temperature and the air temperature much higher than this morning, 33.6 degrees centigrade. Not very humid here, which is very pleasant, but it's going to be a lot more work for these Pirelli tyres this afternoon. Now we can see there car 0, which is the Alain Coder Caca Bueno BMW Team Brazil car. There is Alain climbing into one of the Slovakia Ring cars here. So that car has ended up in the gravel. Why? We're not entirely sure, as he gets dragged off. So that's a real problem for them, and such a shame for the BMW Team Brazil squad who have had a difficult season so far. We can now hear from the man who is going to be starting 3rd on the grid. His teammate Peter Cox will start the car. He's Stephane Racina.
Local hero Stephane Racina, 2nd row of the grid. Can you improve?
Well, hopefully. I mean, the first race was quite difficult, let's say, for us, because over the distance it seems that the guys in front of us are a bit better. So yeah, we will see. It's even more hotter now. So anyway, for me it's nice that we are, let's say, in first 2 rows. My teammate did a good job, and we now have to enjoy it, and let's see if the luck will be on our side and if we can end up, let's say, at least at this position.
A lot of physical action in the qualifying race this morning. How do you avoid that here?
Well, I was quite surprised, to be honest, because in the first bend there were plenty of cars around me, so which did not happen, let's say, last year. So hopefully now the start will be easier for them. So I didn't expect to have so many things to be going on.
Enjoy it. Thank you very much, Stephane.
Thank you. Stephane Racina and Peter Cox making their 2nd appearance of the season in their 1st appearance so far. There is Peter Cox on the left with his daughter on the right. The 1st appearance of the season at Zolder, they won the race. She doesn't want to be on camera, does she? It's all about Peter as he gets ready to take the start. starting from 3rd place on the grid, just behind the pole-sitting car of Sebastien Loeb. 2nd place in there is Stephane Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor. And they are the current championship leaders after finishing 2nd, despite starting from 9th on the grid in the qualifying race. So a very impressive performance from Ortelli and Vanthoor. And as a result, they are really starting to assert their authority on this championship. As the crowd get ready for this race action, which will be 1 hour long. There you can see the number 2 car on the right-hand side, the leading Pro-Am car, and the driver, Sergei Afanasiev, is with John.
Stephane, winner of the Pro-Am, what can you do this afternoon?
We're in a good position. We're starting. The starting straight is really wide, so everything will be solved in the first corner. After this, there is a yellow in the second, as usual, and then we just need to work well, and it's going to be done. I'm quite sure in my teammate that he will do it better than me in the first corner, so we'll keep it up.
Well, you enjoy it. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Sergei Afanasiev actually got a brilliant start on the run down. Oh, I thought there was a wheel that was that had been put into the back of the pickup truck there, and it obviously looks like that's the case. So the front left wheel on Alan Coder's car has possibly come away, and that's why he's ended up in the gravel trap. So that's a real shame. And as a result, Edvard Sandström, who was meant to be starting behind the 0 car, has to pretend that the 0 car is there on the start straight. There is the number 1 machine. Alan Day will start that car. It's got a new bonnet on it after the first race, where the bonnet flew off after contact in turn 1. The car was actually deemed to be underweight at the end of the first race, but they said, look, the bonnet came off, and the steward said that was fine. There's an interesting conversation that we want to hear, wouldn't it? Vincent Voss and Stephane Ortelli having a little bit of a chat, perhaps about the 2012 specification that the WRT Audis are running in this weekend. Having not really got on very well with the 2013 specification, they found it was giving them more drag. They've reverted to the 2012 rear wing in order to pick up a bit of speed, and it worked, didn't it? So they're going to be 2nd on the grid. And, well, apparently it was suspension failure for the 0 car, the BMW Team Brazil machine that we saw in the gravel trap. That's the reason that it ended up in the gravel trap, apparently. The wheel was definitely off it, so it all seems to point to a very similar thing. 3-minute board has been shown, and at 15 the hour, this race is due to get underway in Slovakia. Fantastic to be here in Slovakia. This circuit was only built in 2009, and the FIA GT3 European Championship was the first to use it. We're about 45 minutes outside the capital of Bratislava. Wonderful city, 460,000 population on the banks of the River Danube, and it's really a fantastic place to come. And the circuit itself has provided us with some great racing over the, well, this is now the 3rd year that SRO has come here with the FIA GT Championships. There is the look back. The red machine is the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini of Peter Cox and Stefan Racina, who looked pretty relaxed to me on the grid. John, you were chatting to them. Cox and Racina seemed pretty chilled.
Yeah, and Peter Cox and his wife and daughter are with them, so they're very comfortable. Warm on the grid. Believe me, it's 32.9 Celsius. In fact, it feels about 10 degrees warmer, but there is a bit of a wind coming down the straight, blowing into the face of the cars. That may have a bearing on, particularly the track temperature was lower. It's only 36 something, yeah, which I was surprised at. I thought it had been a lot higher. Maybe the wind's just taking the top of that track temperature. So, interesting racing prospect.
Here's a look at the grid then as we segue our way down towards the back of it. There we saw the gap on the left-hand side where the BMW Team Brazil car should have been. And then we get to the back of the grid, and unfortunately it doesn't look as though the Team India BMW has managed to make it out onto the circuit, does it? Because they had an engine failure in the first race, and it was a pretty short turnaround, so they were trying to get it fixed in time for this main race, but it doesn't look like they've achieved it, unfortunately, which is a real shame for Aman Ibrahim and local driver Philip Sledecka, who hasn't actually driven and won't have driven a racing lap this weekend. So the formation lap gets underway then. The car's pulling off the grid ahead of this 1 hour race The car on the right-hand side there, the Audi with the white wing mirrors and the white rear wing, is the one that is leading the championship at the moment, but it is the Sebastien Loeb racing McLaren that will start this race from pole position. But it's such a wide start, it's such a long run down to the first corner, a wide circuit, anything can happen.
Well, we saw on the start of the qualifying race, Alvaro Parent came from what is on screen, the right-hand side of the circuit, and swooped from 8th in the grid all the way up into 2nd place. But Sebastien Loeb is on the left-hand side of the circuit on your screen at home. So to me, to some extent, the advantage goes to, in fact, we're looking at this, Ortelli in the Audi. And remember, that Audi, with a revision to its aerodynamics going back to the 2012 spec wing, is going to be quick in that run down to turn 1.
And there's Nicky Melnoff starting in 5th place as well. He's going to be an interesting one to watch after he had pace in the opening race. Only one of these BMWs would be on the grid, the 21 car, after that failure we've just seen before the start of the race for the 0 car. Edward Sandstrom will be hoping to make up for his mistake, really, in the first race. Alongside him will be Alan Day. Then we get Albert von Turn and Taxis in the second, Reiter Engineering Lamborghini alongside Wolfgang Wright. Philippe Salaquada in the Pro-Am entry, AF Corsa Ferrari. He and Harry Prochik should have a good battle. Matthias Stump will be looking for some more pace. That Lamborghini's been quick all weekend, but he hasn't quite been able to turn it into results. There's Peter Charouz and Jensi Michael in 17th and 18th positions on the grid. Karun Chandok will start in 19th place after a drive shaft failure in that Mercedes meant they couldn't get out, and Carlos Vieira will start at the back of the grid. Unfortunately, that BMW Team India car won't be taking the start because they couldn't change the engine in time after its failure this morning. There is the 51 car. Philippe Salaquada will be starting that machine as Sebastien Loeb starts this race on pole position, as he did in Nogaro right back in the first main race of the season. He started on pole position, and then there was a little bit of accidents here and there, and they ended up sliding down the field. He was penalised for taking off his seatbelt, but it's going to be a challenge for Loeb.
Yes, it is, and while the ambient temperature is high, the track temperature not quite so high, and as we noted from the qualifying race this morning, track temperature and tire temperature take a lap or two to get up to speed. Now, it's not going to be quite so long here, but the pace lap, or the parade lap that they're on now, is at a relatively low pace, so temperatures, tire pressures are going to be down. Again, it sort of all directs towards the experience, and if you look at experience in the front row of the grid, you've got to say that Stephane Ortelli is the man who's got that, and Sebastien Loeb, with all that natural talent and gift that he's been given, is maybe a little bit short. So it might be tentative off the line, but principally where you break into turn 1 and who can get their nose ahead into turn 1 could be a key to how this race is going to unfold.
Those eagle-eyed viewers might have spotted Carlos Vieira at the back of the grid when he finished the race in 17th. That's because he was put to the back of the grid for ignoring yellow flags in the first race, whilst the Seyfarth Mercedes of Jensi Michael was being recovered. Carlos Vieira actually lost control of the car and collected an advertising hoarding, so that's why he's been put to the back of the grid as the safety car brings them around this long right-hander. And this is on board with the pole sitter, Sebastien Loeb. Ortelli letting him know that he's there.
Oh, very much. There's a lot of mind games going on right now, and Stephane Ortelli more than capable of inflicting, a strike on the run down to turn 1 at the earliest opportunity.
The safety car comes in. The 1 hour race for the 4th round of this year's FIA GT Series is about to get underway. Ortelli is way in front of Loeb as the lights go out. I don't know how close they were when the lights actually went out, because it was difficult to tell, but Loeb has got a poor start. Here comes Andreas Simonsen right towards the inside. Loeb's getting squeezed. It looks as though Ortelli's going to take the lead around the outside, and he does. Loeb's swiping, and spun round is Alan Day. Alan Day in the number 1 HTP Gravity Charouz Mercedes is in the gravel trap. What a disastrous start for the race for them. Up into 3rd place already has come the 21 car of Ricardo Zonta. Brilliant start from him. And smoke, that's Loeb. Sebastien Loeb has a front left puncture. What do these guys have to do to get luck?
Well, I can't say I told you so, but look at Alvaro Parent's face does tell us so. He just got swamped. He got actually a fire. The tyre and the wheel are on flames, and that's also with the brake. He needs to pull that car over at a marshal's post, let them attend to it, get that fire attended to. So what a disappointment for Sebastien Loeb and Alvaro Perent, and that fire is going to catch hold. Hopefully Marshals are going to get there quickly, but he stopped at the chicane. Not the best place. We don't know if they're there. They are. Marshals getting now. Sebastien Loeb completely unaffected by that, but hugely disappointed. But he just got swamped. He held back. Now, what's that all about?
It's Alan Day. It's Alan Day
holding his
away
ribs.
From his car. Yep. Safety car has been deployed meanwhile. The start was interesting, wasn't it? Because it seemed as though Stephane Ortelli was well ahead of Loeb.
To me, it looked like he was about 3 car lengths ahead. And to me, it looked like Sebastien Loeb had backed right off deliberately to cause that situation where Ortelli would then have to back off for a break and then, of course, allow Loeb to get the jump on him. So that looks like the ploy that was being played out, but how the 2 cars came across the start-finish line. If Ortelli was ahead, then there will be a problem, because he should not have been ahead of the pole position car until the lights went out at the start-finish line.
Unless Loeb had some kind of problem, because he was very slow off the line as well, wasn't he?
Well, he got swamped because basically he was slow approaching the line. Others behind were all prepped to get the charge and the run, so he just lost that initial momentum, and others behind him. And once he got to turn 1, you had the Mercedes on the right-hand side, Lamborghini on the left-hand side. He was just simply a French sandwich.
A baguette.
A baguette.
They come down towards the first corner, then they pick up the safety car. Stephane Ortelli leading, Andreas Simonsen in 2nd place, 3rd place for Ricardo Zonta, 4th for Andy Zuber, 5th place for Nicky Melnoff, 6th for Albert von Turner. Taxis, good start from Albert. He's up into 6th position, having started the race in 11th place. That's good stuff. Harry Procek is up into 2nd in Pro-Am, ahead of Matthias Stump. Philippe Salaquada in 10th place, as Loeb walks away. And I'm running out of words for them.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, the guy was a gymnast in his former sporting life, and he's still pretty happy. You could see the way he just vaulted across that barrier. But as you say, what does he have to do? He had pole position, won the race alongside Alvaro Perent. Great job. But on the approach to the line, when the lights were still red, he did fall back, and that allowed Ortelli to go ahead. It wasn't Ortelli's intention to go ahead, but he found himself in that position. Now, whether that was a problem with the McLaren or whether that was a bit of gamesmanship going on between the 2 Frenchmen on the front row of the grid, we may well find that out a bit later. But in the meantime, the lead is held by Stephane Ortelli, and Mercedes of Simonsen in 2nd place.
Now, somewhere out there, Peter Cox got involved as well, because he's in the pits. I've just heard him rumble past our commentary box window, which is right on the entry to the pit lane. So Peter Cox must have got involved in all that kerfuffle as well.
Yeah, he was one of the cars that was involved in this squeeze prior to going into turn 1. But then lots of other cars were going at one side, the other side, almost literally over the top. And Peter Cox and the other Lamborghini, whether it was Tronan Taxis or one of the other cars, crawled out of the turn 1 and up the hill. So whatever occurred to Peter Cox's car, the car he shares with the local hero, Stefan Rosina, it occurred with contact in turn 1.
So the safety car comes out. We had a long safety car period in the qualifying race. Hopefully this one won't last as long, as the Sebastien Loeb racing team shrug their shoulders. They've still got 1 car there in 4th position in the hands of Andy Zuber, as we wait for Loeb's car to get removed. Here's a look at the replay then.
Well, look, there you can see Peter Cox. There's the sandwich between the McLaren and the Mercedes. And Peter Cox then, the Mercedes of Alain Day, that's what it was. Alain Day clipped the left front of the Lamborghini. That's what spun Alain Day off into the gravel on turn 1.
I didn't really see where Loeb's issue came from. He didn't seem to actually get involved in all the contact. He obviously did, because there's the compelling evidence. And what has caught fire here? Oh, well, here we go. We'll see on board with Loeb here. Cox is there.
There was contact,
yeah. There's a bit of a nudge.
That's small, but it's sufficient. Yeah. Whenever the bodywork and the tire come into contact, friction, heat, sets off a fire. Probably the resins in the bodywork, carbon fibre bodywork, that's most likely what caught fire. Then you've got the tire itself, plus all the hydraulics that are around the brakes. So huge disappointment for Sebastien. A very minor knock. I mean, it's slightly. Yeah, that was in relative terms, that wasn't really a knock. That was a kiss.
Yeah. And there you can see at the back of the pack, Yancy Michaels out in the second safe-aft Mercedes this weekend, as the cars weave their way around the circuit for their second safety car period. Although, of course, in the first race it was their teammates who were doing the safety car period, so perhaps it's only fair. We've now got the recovery truck out there to pick up the Sebastien Loeb Racing McLaren. It looks to me as though Peter Cox is out of the race because he is still in the pit lane and yet to emerge, so he's already gone 1 lap down. So unless he gets out before too long, he'll be 2 laps down as well. So that's a real shame for Peter and for Stephane and for Reiter in general, because they're a great team. It's great to have them in the series. But for circumstances beyond their control, if they'd have been here for all 3 of the first rounds, they'd be well in the title.
But, you know, we've got a racetrack that is probably wider than the average that we will certainly go to with the GT Series, and probably wider than most tracks that are used internationally around the world. That in turn offers up lots of opportunity. You can get 4 even maybe at a pinch, and that's what we had, 5 wide. But then when they make their cut into turn 1, it suddenly goes from 5 to at best 2 wide, and ideally it's only going to be a single car through the racing line.
So there you can see the car being dragged away, and that means that hopefully the safety car, if not in this lap, will be in the lap after, which would be good to get the racing back underway, because it's going to be very interesting with Ortelli up at the front. But Andreas Simonsen has been very, very quick in that red and white Mercedes you can see in second place. Also interesting to see what Ricardo Zonta can do with his pace. We've got Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff looking to come through as well. Here we go, on board with Loeb, and Ortelli's gone.
Well, Ortelli...
Who's on pole here?
Well, Sebastien Loeb, whether he deliberately drove back or whether, I don't know what happened. We need to find out from both drivers. I suspect Ortelli will say Loeb backed off and created the situation. Here we now see the pinch coming into turn 1. Bang on the back rear of the Lamborghini, and also contact with the Mercedes. So the Lamborghini got right rear and left front contact. Sebastien Loeb, there you can see that minor contact was sufficient to bring the bodywork into contact with the left front wheel and tyre, and from that point onwards it's only going to deteriorate. And by the time he gets to the bottom of the hill, there are flames. You can't see it there, but they're already licking from the wheel arch on the left hand side of the McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely. There you can start to see the flames now, and I think that's the point where Sebastien says, Zut alors, I might pull over.
Well, I mean, like most people with adrenaline rush that you get when you drive a race car, all your senses are highly charged, not least of all your smell. And he will have smelled the burning resins in that bodywork, and then the smell, the acrid smell you get from rubber and all the other paraphernalia, your brake duct stuff that are around the wheel, that wheel hub assembly. Oh, what a mess, what a mess.
So, Alan Day is out of the race in the number 1 HTP Gravity Series Mercedes. Alain Coder is out of the race before it even started in his BMW Team Brazil car, and Sebastien Loeb is out of the race in his Sebastien Loeb Racing McLaren, and I think Peter Cox is as well, because he's now been in the pits for 2 laps pretty much, so I think it's game over for that Reiter car. The second Reiter car, though, is running in 6th position with Albert von Thurn and Taxis, as Ortelli kind of backs the pack up a little bit. No indication that the safety car is in this lap. I would have thought it would be.
Well, I mean, what Ortelli was doing was literally bringing the pack almost to a walking pace. There is the Lamborghini of Cox, and Rosina in that car clearly ain't going to be going out on track, and that's what a huge disappointment for all the fans around Bratislava that have made the trip out of the city to the racetrack. Beautiful day, stunning day. And they're not going to be able to watch their hero, who is a very, very fine driver. And strangely, we were talking about he may retire, you know, at the end of the season. I asked him about it and said, look, you know, you're a fine driver, you should not retire. Get some focus and get a good drive, because you've got lots of good work you can still do.
Absolutely. His defence.
And he said the checks in the post, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen Rosina's teammate Peter Cox. He is out of the race, unfortunately. Such a shame for that Reiter Engineering squad, because they've had such pace this season, but they've struggled to make it count. Peter Cox got bullied a bit at the first corner. Let's see what he makes of it. He's with Emily.
Peter, what happened out there?
Well, a lot. Not in my favor. Well, first of all, I have to say that I think the start was incorrect. For me, the Audi was way in front. You know, I got for less offense a drive-through penalty last year, so I want to wait and see what happens. Anyway, I think I had a better start than Sebastien in the car in front. And I pulled alongside, and for me everything was clear. I just had a good start, and I was just lining up the corner, stay on my line, didn't move. And suddenly I got tapped in the rear by Sebastien. I think maybe he got also hit. I haven't seen the pictures completely yet. But then a Mercedes come from the outside, and I don't know, I already had a good start, and I don't know where he came from, but he just drove straight into the front of our car and broke the suspension. And that was it.
Thank you.
Good to hear from Peter Cox. Thank you, Emily. But the safety car is pulling in now, and racing gets back underway here at the Slovakia ring. How has Ortelli judged this restart then? Reasonably well. He's got a bit of a gap over Andreas Simonsen, not a huge one though, as they come out of turn 14 and across the line to resume racing after that brief safety car period. 0.4 of a second between Ortelli and Simonsen. The Audis struggle a little bit in the straights. Is Simonsen going to go for it? No, he's not. It's side by side further back. This is the Grasser Racing Lamborghini going side by side with Sandstrom. This is Prochik attacking Sandstrom, all over 7th place, and he's got through. He's just gone around the outside at turn 1. Great stuff from Harry Prochik. He's the amateur.
It was a good, forceful move, and Edvard Sundstrom decided that caution is the better part of valor in this early phase of this race. We've already had that safety car for 3 laps. This car is running slightly wide in the exit, kicking up the dirt and dust. Others having to take avoiding action. But no, Harry Prochik was on a mission, and he decided he was going to get past Sundstrom, and he made that work for him.
Absolutely, a very good move from Harry. And that allows him now the chance to try and close in on Albert von Turnentaxis in the Reiter Lamborghini just in front. And there is Sebastien on the pit wall.
Même Andy qui est 4 voitures derrière, il le dit à la radio, c'est moins fort.
I can't really speak French, so can't really make out what they were saying, but a very disappointed man. And here comes a look at the inside from Sandstrom. He's just about managed to get past, has he? Yes, but Harry Prochik's holding it in there. Bit of a touch between them.
Yes,
and
wheel to wheel.
Holds the position.
Yeah, wheel to wheel, so a bit of blue smoke came off the tyre, the rear, right or left rear of the Lamborghini, but hopefully no damage to that tyre. Question you have to ask Sebastien Loeb is, what happened? Why did he back off so much? Why did he let Ortelli, or why do you think Ortelli got ahead?
Yeah, the two of them good friends, but perhaps
maybe not any longer.
So this is the battle we're watching over 7th place ultimately. As we climb the hill and come down towards turn 13, it looks as though the Audi's backed off just a little bit. Now Nicky Meyer-Melnoff is trying to attack Andy Zuber for 4th position. It's I thought Ortelli had gone wide there, just a bit of a different line he takes.
Well, he does run very, very wide on the exit of turn 13, lets the car run the curb, and he needs to be careful because the Mercedes is picking up some of the slipstream. Mercedes seem to have slightly better drive off 13 up, and now looks to show the nose. Not far enough, but he's just balancing. Can he make it this time? No. Next time, he'll be closer.
Well, let's go down now and hear from Sebastien Loeb. He's on the pit wall with Emily. Let's find out what he thought happened.
Sebastien, what happened out there?
It happened that on the formation lap before the green flag, I'm leader, so I have to decide of the rhythm. And the car who was next to me, the second car, was going away. So for me, it was no green flag. It was impossible. Finally, it went green, and some other car went for sure on the rhythm of the other one. We were overtaken everywhere, but it was a wrong start. So that's the problem, and we paid it quite expensive.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, the question I think that wasn't really answered was that a backing off, accelerating, backing off, was that done to wrong foot Ortelli, knowing that Ortelli has a lot more experience than Sebastien has in these contexts?
The start of car 11 is now under investigation, and Peter Cox actually raised a very good point. If you remember, and Carlos Vieira is out of the race, so that Audi has been parked. Unfortunately, it looks like a parking, doesn't it? Rather than an incident.
That's a car parked off. That's in a safe place, so no issues there with safety cars being intervened.
But yes, last year at Zolder, Peter Cox was maybe half a car length ahead of the pole man, and he got a drive-through penalty.
In the context of what Peter Cox has said and what Sebastien Loeb has said, with Ortelli, 4 car lengths ahead of the pole-sitting car, the lights should have not gone green. They should not have gone out. They should have remained. It should have been a full start, and they should have been forced to regroup and restart. Now, that's easy for us to say here in the commentary booth. We're not having to make that call, but I think that if there is any issue, there will be a lot of interpretations of what was occurring on that parade lap coming through 13 and 14.
But Ortelli was also ahead for kind of most of the lap, wasn't he? Even at the start when they pulled away. You know, whether it was mind games or whether it was almost as if he thought he was in pole position. I'm sure he did.
Well, to me,
that kind of behaviour.
When I went onto the grid, I was standing what I thought would have been pole position, which would have been on the left-hand side going down. But it wasn't, it was on the right. Now, I can't imagine Ortelli would have thought anything other than I'm in the front row of the grid. But clearly the pace that the cars were being brought up to the lights was a pace that it appeared to me that it was slightly fluctuating, and Ortelli would not, in my opinion, have done that maliciously. I'm sure he will say that, you know, there was something, I thought there was something wrong, or it was not normal. I don't know. I mean, we'll all no doubt hear about it later when the various team principals and drivers are brought in to explain what took place.
Harry Procik has dropped now behind Edward Sandstrom and Matthias Stumpf, so that's been a change of position. We're on board with Wolfgang Reip, who is actually chasing one of the Lamborghinis. When they came across the line, he was behind Felipe Salaquada, so has Reip managed to get past Felipe Salaquada? They'll be the next two in the... No, Salaquada has got past Stumpf. I think that's what's happened. So it's all been kicking off down there.
Yeah, but remember, Project had contact with Edward Sundstrom, and they did that overtake in turn one. There was that little puff of blue smoke from the rear tyre. It may well have damaged the rear suspension in the Lamborghini.
Absolutely. So there's our top two. 3, 4, 5, and then 6th position is Albert Monturnitatis. Sandstrom all over the back of him. Then it's Procik in 8th. So Procik has got past Stumpf as they come down through the right-hander at turn 13. Ortelli has a 7.5 of a second advantage over Andreas Simonsen as they come across the line. Stephane Ortelli continues to lead with the advantage that he pulled at the start of the race, but Andreas Simonsen is following him all the way, just 0.6 of a second behind. It's going to be a fascinating race, this. You can see these two battling it out for the next 41 minutes. We've got driver changes as well in about 6 or 7 minutes time, in which they will hand over to their teammates.
Remember the second pace car here. Let's look again and see what was going on. Coming out of 13, side by side, everything is normal.
All fine.
Everything's fine. Suddenly Ortelli is Loeb slowing down deliberately, or is it his right to do what he chooses? And was Ortelli just ignoring it and saying, well, I'm going to do what I believe is right, and then it all goes wrong?
Drive-through penalty for Stephane Ortelli for a jump start. There's not really much argument can be had about that, and Stephane Ortelli then will have to serve a drive-through penalty there. We're seeing the incident. Basically, Alan Day tried to do what Alvaro Parent did, but Cox had already been tapped,
yes,
which sent him into Day.
Indeed, and that's the danger of trying to go around the outside as this battle for the lead. And then Simonsen in the Mercedes in second place, putting lots of pressure on Stephane Ortelli in the lead Audi, and really all over the back of the Audi, every part of the racetrack. And it looks to me like the Audi's not quite so strong coming off turn 13, and the Mercedes has got good straight line speed, so if Simonsen can get it right, he could put himself in a position to take the lead of this race.
Vincent Voss watching on as he sees the drive-through penalty for Stephane Ortelli, which is of course the championship leading car. Their closest rivals though, Edward Sandstrom and Frank Stipper, are 7th at the moment, and the number 1 car of Alan Day and Max Boot is out of the race, so it's not an absolute disaster for them, but this was a real opportunity to make a difference as the 50 car goes sliding off around. That's Claudio Stanisvich at the wheel of that car. He's had a moment coming through turn 8, whether that was alone or not, not sure, but he's ended up in the gravel, and into the pits comes Stephane Ortelli to serve his drive-through penalty.
We've seen what's happened. I'm amazed that Ortelli would have done that. And I mean, I'm sure he'll have a whole list of reasons why it happened. Whether it was gamesmanship on the part of Sebastien Loeb, or whether it's still the responsibility of the entire field to follow the pace of the car on pole position. And there is no excuse.
Out of the pits comes Stephane Ortelli. He emerges in 12th position, just ahead of the Gentleman Trophy drivers. I mean, ultimately, that is still going to be 6th in class for Ortelli. It may have dropped him a long way down the order, but you get points in your classes here, and that will still leave him in the 6th position in his this class, so it's not a total disaster by any stretch of the imagination. Look at that, there's been a change there. Edward Sandstrom has got past Albert von Turnhen-Taxis then. So Sandstrom in that black Audi is now up into 6th position ahead of Albert, who is now down into 7th place. He will hand over to Marc Basseng before too long, and he's got Harry Prochik for attention right up behind him as well. Good to see Albert back here. The battle behind is between Philippe Salaquada and Matthias Stumpf. That's the battle over 3rd in class, and Wolfgang right behind actually is making it a 3-way battle over 3rd in class. Good pace from Ricardo Zonta, now running in 2nd position. His last lap was a 2-minute 5.3, which actually was half a second quicker than Andreas Simonsen, the race leader. So if Zonta can keep up that kind of pace, it might begin to close in a little bit, the gap at the front, as they come over the crest of the hill. So Stephane Ortelli has come back out of the pits all the way down the order in 11th position. Still 6th in class though, but after that drive-through penalty, Audi probably must be a little bit disappointed. We can hear now from Vincent Voss. Let's see whether he thought that penalty was justified. He's in the garage with Emily.
Vincent, did you think Stephane's start was okay?
Well, I did not really understand what happened. I saw that Stephane has a clearly better start, but you know, we are just watching on TV like everyone. We have no clue what happened. I don't know if Sebastien was slow at the start, or if it's the fault of Stephane. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
That's a diplomatic answer, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he's seen the same pictures that we have seen, and we've had a good replay from on board of Sebastien Loeb, and it is abundantly clear that Ortelli was 3-4 car lengths ahead at the point they crossed the start-finish line. But the issue that we still have to understand is why was Loeb apparently slower than Ortelli. The bottom line ultimately is that it is Sebastien Loeb who controls the pace of the field, and he is the car that nobody must overtake until they've all passed the start, or you overtake the start-finish line.
Edward Sandstrom is now right up behind Nicky Melnov, so things are working into the hands a little bit of the 13 Audi, because soon they will be up, I imagine, into 3rd in class overall, as we now see Albert von Turnhen-Taxis and Harry Prochik still battling. Those two Audis there, I imagine the 2nd Audi will be allowed past the 1st Audi before too long, in order to give them the best possible opportunity of closing in or extending their advantage in 2nd place in the championship standings at the moment.
Project on the headlights, flashing furiously, trying to find a way past Albert von Turnhen-Taxis. He's recovering from a good start, then a small collision with Sandstrom, and then losing position now, gradually, bit by bit, clawing his way back. But in the meantime, Stephane Ortelli, in air, clear air, all on his own, is setting fastest sector times. He's going to have a long afternoon. Nevertheless, don't discount him from scoring points.
No, absolutely not. Well, he'll definitely score points, because he's still 6th in class, as we see these two WRT Audis 4th and 5th at the moment, but only 0.4 of a second separating them, and surely before long Edward Sandstrom will make the move on Nicky Melnov. Although Melnov and René Rast are only 4th in the championship at the moment. Behind it looked like Harry Prochik might have got the move done on Albert von Turnhen-Taxis. We will wait and see as they come over the crest. We should be able to get a glimpse. Yes, he has. So Harry Prochik is through and up into 6th position overall. Doesn't affect him. He's still 2nd in class, but still nice to be up mixing it with the pro drivers. And Harry's performing very well. Pit stop window then is open. When will these drivers decide to come into the pits? I imagine Melnov will be in sooner rather than later. Karun Chanduk's just come in to hand over to Jan Seyfarth, as these Audis continue to squabble. And really, this is costing Edward Sandstrom time, where he could be closing in, or attempting to close in, on Andy Zuber in 3rd position.
Yes, and I think that the WRT Audi team will be fully aware of this. They may well be bringing Nicky Melnhof in at this early opportunity and get René Rast into that car, and then that would release Sandstrom to go for a further 8 or 7 minutes, as we look and see Mercedes getting ready as well, the lead car, which is also leading Pro-Am. I mean, an outstanding drive by these, and it's going to be Sergei Afanasiev in the car after Simonsen brings it in.
Now these three are the three cars battling for the lead of the race, I'd say, because Andreas Simonsen is out in the lead of the race, but he's the gold driver, he's the pro in the Pro-Am pairing. Sergei Afanasiev is no slouch, he's got plenty of single-seater experience, but Simonsen is the quicker driver, whereas these two pro cars, when they hand over to their teammates, Ricardo Zonta will hand over to Sergio Jimenez as Jan Sebath comes out of the pits. Andy Zuber will hand over to Mike Parisi, both very, very quick drivers. So into the pits comes the BMW then. So Ricardo Zonta comes in to hand over to Sergio Jimenez. Also into the pits, as we predicted, is Nicky Meyer-Melnhof. He rumbles past our commentary box. That's Albert von Turnen Taxis coming in as well to hand over to Mark Basseng. Also Wolfgang Reip coming in to hand over to Alex Buncombe. So it's going to get busy in the pit lane now, but all eyes really, at the moment anyway, in this stage of the race, are going to be on the Team Brazil squad. René Rast could come into contention later on in the race, but I don't think in this pit stop window they're going to be challenging for the lead. We'll keep an eye out, because it's that BMW that came in.
It is, and this Arthur Jackson is rolling.
Yep.
So it's on its way. So Sergio Jimenez is back down the pit lane, and watching the Nissan change Alex Buncombe and Wolfgang Reip, and now the Audi gets running René Rast. So it's going to be a real. When René Rast did a brilliant job in qualifying on Saturday, the team very impressed indeed with his pace and the manner in which he drives the car. Very, very smooth, not putting too many aggressive inputs into the steering, brakes, gear changing, of course, now done on the paddle shifts on the steering wheel.
So René Rast comes out of the pits. Here's our race leader still, Andreas Simonsen. But it's all going to be about the pit stops. Can Simonsen get out in front of that BMW, and equally can the Sebastien Loeb Racing McLaren team do anything about the race lead as well? Because there's the now second place car, the leader in the Pro Cup, Andy Zuber. When he hands over to Mike Parisi, is there an opportunity for them to get involved in the race win as well? This is going to be a very interesting pit stop window, and then second half of the race, I think.
It is, and there you can see the gap between first and second, just over 4 seconds. The Pro-Am car driven by currently Simonsen to hand over to Sergei Afanasiev, who is the silver driver. So Mercedes stays out. He's going to stay out until as long as possible. And what is Zuber doing? Likewise stays out.
Okay, so we don't learn anything just yet. Into the pits comes the second Audi of Edward Sandstrom to hand over to Frank Stippler. That'll be interesting to see where these come out in relation to René Rast, because they were behind René Rast when the pit stop window started. Will they get out in front or remain behind as Philippe Salaquada comes in as well? He'll hand over to Fabio Anidi. On board we go with Sandstrom. Parks the car, gets out, Stippler gets in.
Good teamwork, these two drivers work both similar heights again, work well together. So Sandstrom out of the car very quickly, Stippler into it equally quickly. Driver change completed. There is the BMW.
So the BMW should come out well ahead of these guys. It's going to be the second Audi that is the one to watch out for. Out of the pits comes the Audi. Oh, it's going to be close.
It's going to be closer.
I underestimated that one. A good start from the Audi, but the BMW does hold the place.
The question is,
exactly.
René Rast.
It's going to be Rast, isn't it? He'll have the inside line,
and in a way, that's in the interest of the team.
Yeah,
that Rast gets just ahead of Frank Stippler as they leave the pit lane. So René Rast now has got the BMW in his sights as we ride on board with Frank Stippler as he's following his teammate René Rast.
Okay, so it's the Andreas Simonsen and Andy Zuber pit stops that are the two to wait for at the moment, because this change has been over a net 4th position, these two Audis. René Rast is now effectively running 4th, all things being equal in the pit stop window. Things rarely are. Here is Andreas Simonsen flashing past us, then Andy Zuber behind. They've been lapping very similarly. Zuber perhaps falling away a little bit. What has the pace been like of Sergio Jimenez? He hasn't done a full out lap yet. He was a second slower in sector 1. It's not particularly strong.
And Alex Buncombe in the Nissan now showing real pace. Now they know that this car is going to be quick. They've got 2 sets of new rubber, one for the start with Wolfgang Reip and another set for Alex Buncombe. So he is using that new set of tyres to its maximum effect. And of course they're challenging not necessarily for overall victory but for positions in the Pro-Am Cup. Currently they are in second place.
Into the pits comes Stephane Ortelli for the second time today, this time for a legitimate reason, to hand over to his teammate Laurens Vanthoor. Andreas Simonsen stays out there. I'm surprised Zuber hasn't come in to hand over to Parisi. I thought that might happen around the halfway mark.
Well, I mean, they've got this, finish this lap and one more lap and that will be it. So one of the two cars I predict will make it in now. I don't think they're both going to hang out to the last possible moment. The key, of course, is trying to find the window that gets you back on track where you're not falling in behind slow traffic that's going to delay your progress.
Yep, and Alex Buncombe's just done one of the fastest middle sectors that Nissan has done all weekend. He was saying they were struggling to get under a minute in qualifying in the middle sector, but he's just on a 1 minute .1, so that's a good effort from Buncombe.
Yeah, and he's benefiting from a fresh head of rubber. That will go away as the remaining part of this race, the 28 minutes or so remaining. So is Simonsen going to come in this time? There's going to be a tight call because they've got 25 minutes. It should be one more lap each if that's what they choose to do. And I have a feeling that the McLaren will come in. I don't know why I've got the feeling, but you know, you do get these feelings we'll see. Occasionally.
We'll see how well these feelings. Well, there's
the Mercedes.
There's Mike Parisi.
Yep.
So you might be right here. The Sebastien Loeb Racing Team looking ready for the McLaren as it winds through turn 11. A little flick left of 12 that brings you back out onto the back straight again. Alex Buncombe is just on a 2 minute 4.2, which is the fastest lap of the race so far by anyone.
Yep, it's a very strong lap. Again, the team didn't run, for example, this morning in the warm-up. That wouldn't have mattered. That if still there's the McLaren coming in. So yeah,
this is going to be our first sign as to whether this is. I mean, this is the battle for the Pro Cup. Simonsen is in the Pro-Am Cup. So as far as the Pro Cup and Pro Championship is concerned, this is very important for the Sebastien Loeb Racing McLaren team. Because will they come out in front of the BMW Team Brazil?
And just behind is Harry Project coming in the Lamborghini. Dominic Bauerman's going to jump into that. But this is the key pit stop. And see whether get Mike Parisi in as we wait to see when the Mercedes has got to come in now. It's got to run out of time otherwise.
Now that's a good pit stop there, and I think that'll be enough for the McLaren team. It's going to be relatively close, but the McLaren's heading towards pit exit now as Jimenez comes out of the final corner.
Go on, make a commitment. Is he going to do it or not, Jack?
Yeah, I think the McLaren's going to stay ahead here. Here comes Jimenez, though, down the start-finish straight. It's going to be mighty close. Jimenez is up to speed, but he hasn't managed to do it. So that McLaren now is into the pro lead and overall second place for the moment, but we'll see what happens when Andreas Simonsen comes into the pits. But for how much longer? Because Jimenez knows he has to do it now. He goes through on the inside of turn 2, and Jimenez takes the lead of the Pro Cup.
Well, that was
had to be done, didn't it?
There's no doubt. René Rast. Yes, absolutely. Now that had to be done at the earliest opportunity. Mike Parisi out on a set of tyres, not up to track temperature, operating temperature. Joey Jimenez knew he'd maybe one corner, two at most, and now René Rast is all over the back of Mike Parisi, and it's going to be an uncomfortable intersection of this circuit.
Yep, absolutely. So the BMW will hope that Parisi holds these guys up and he can scarf a clear. Parisi desperately trying to get some heat into those tyres. Here's our race leader at the moment, Andreas Simonsen, in the HTP Gravity Charouz Motorsports Mercedes. He's got 20 seconds to get in. He should be able to do it as he comes in now.
Well judged. That was a well-judged strategy from that team. But there's the battle for effectively now what will be the lead of this race.
Yep. Well, we'll see.
Oh, nice one.
Depends how quickly these guys can get the car turned around. Sergei Afanasiev will be taking over. Quite a lot of pressure on the Russians' shoulders, and this is perfect news for the BMW Team Brazil squad. Oh, can Parisi hang on in there? He's going to have the inside for the right-hand kink, and he can just about. But this is some close stuff now as we come out through the left-hander that takes us onto the back straight, side by side. And the Audi's looking pretty quick in a straight line. Has Parisi lost it already?
He has,
yes, he has.
Indeed. And there's also Stippler looking to come up the inside as well.
Oh, that was a close one.
Well, I mean, all Mike Parisi's attention was on René Rast.
But meanwhile, here comes Sergei Afanasiev out of the pit lane, and he is going to hold on to the lead of the race for the time being. Brilliant stuff from the HDP squad.
And just look how far back we've seen Mike Parisi fall from the rear. And in fact, he's been overtaken by Stipper around the outside. Yes, he has. Yeah. Just sheer horsepower, straight line speed. And Mike Parisi a little bit late in the brakes, getting into some sort of bits and pieces of trouble. Recovers the car, but the two Audis used their opportunities, the straight line speed advantage they've got, and got past the McLaren pretty much trouble-free. But there is our race leader.
And here is our second place man, but our Pro Cup leader, Sergio Jimenez. We thought the BMWs might go well here. It looks like they are. There's Andreas Simonsen, who's got out of the car and had a swig of water. Thumbs up from the Swede. And he will no doubt head back to the pit wall to see how his teammate gets on, because it's going to be the pace of Afanasiev that is going to be the interesting thing to watch out for. Second place man, Sergio Jimenez. Already Rast is closing in. And this spells trouble really for Jimenez, because the BMW, its weakness is the straight line speed.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very good car, particularly in the mid part of this section 2 of the circuit, the slower part of the racetrack. On the high-speed bits, then the Audi, we've just seen how they dealt with the McLaren. But this part of the circuit, but René Rast, even though the Audi's got good straight line speed, it's also extremely efficient here in sector 2. And Mike Parisi really has been mugged by those two Audis, and now he's sort of catching his breath and thinking, well, have I got anything left in the tank to come back?
An 8-second stop-go penalty has been handed to Matej Stumpf and Patrick Kuna, because they missed the pit window. So that's a problem for them. Down they come into the right-hander of turn 13. And what can Jimenez do here? This will be the interesting place to see it, because the BMW, as we've said before, struggles in a straight line. Is it going to be as dramatic as we've seen in the past with this BM, or will it be able to hold on for the moment? Here they come across the start-finish straight. Let's keep an eye out. Does
it's a no-brainer? Look, he's catching him literally. I mean, the speed the Audi had in the first half of the straight. Now René Rast tries to line Jimenez up, but smart enough to know that there's no way into turn 1 on this lap. But the overall pace of the Audi at this stage is best part of half a second a lap quicker than Jimenez can drag out of his BM.
And Sergei Afanasiev is lapping quicker than these two behind, so that Mercedes is comfortable for the time being. It might come under a bit more pressure if René Rast can get past Sergio Jimenez. They come down into turn 3. Whatever the end result is, it's fantastic for the BMWs to be fighting at the front of the Pro Cup, because that's something they haven't been able to do so far this season, even if it does look as though the Audis have a considerable advantage at the moment. Through the right-hander, they've left Mike Parisi for dead.
Yeah, I mean, the pace of these three cars battling over second place has been significantly quicker than Mike Parisi, and I mean, Mike just simply got overwhelmed and has not really recovered, as René Rast makes a slightly audacious move, not really trying to pass into turn 8, but just sort of got himself out of position, now having to recover, going up, turn left, up the hill, reaching just at the exit at the top of the hill, 200 kilometers per hour, much quicker than it looks on the screen.
Absolutely. Down into turn 10. This is where Jimenez needs to be careful, because this is where the Audis are likely to be at their strongest. There is Mike Parisi running 4th in class and 5th overall. Laurence Vamphil's just gone purple in sector 1 as he tries to close in on Mike Parisi in that 5th position. We go on board now with Frank Stippler in 4th place, under braking for the hairpin at 13.
Yeah, just we're hearing also from the pit lane the reason for that fire on the wheel well on Sebastien Loeb's McLaren was when the contact occurred, it cut the tyre down. The tyre then got basically trapped in the wheel well, and it was just the friction of the tyre against the bodywork that created the heat that caused that ignition, where essentially it was the resonance within the carbon fibre bodywork that ignited. It looked worse than it was, but nevertheless it's a mess for the guys to have to clean up.
Yep, absolutely. They've got plenty of time before the next round in Navarra, though, as we come through the right-hander, turn 2, and then flying into this quick little chicane.
Really runs it down under brakes, doesn't he?
Yep.
And Stippler is not giving up on racing his teammate and trying to get up to the tail of the BMW.
And of course, as far as points are concerned, this is ultimately a a battle for the race win. As far as the Pro Cup is concerned, if Jimenez at the moment is all set to get 25 points if he holds on to this position. So these Audis will be desperately keen to pick up those 25 points themselves. Contact between Prochik and Stippler.
Yeah, no, that was Edward Sundstrom. No, we saw that. That's why I thought maybe that Prochik had dropped back, because there was a little bit of damage to the rear wheel of the Lamborghini. Look at René Rast using all the racetrack and more, and really getting a working over from his own teammate Frank Stippler. The trouble is that it's the pace. Let me see, Nicky Meyer-Manhoff. It's the pace of the BMW that's inhibiting Rast, and Stippler could fall back and then accelerate up to the tail of Rast. It's a slightly artificial situation. The pace of Rast would no doubt match Stippler's, just in the context he can't drive it.
Oh, off goes Marc Basseng off the circuit.
Oh, and he's shedding gravel everywhere on the race line. Well, you know, there should be a jail sentence for drivers doing that, even if it is Marc Basseng, lovely guy that he is.
Out onto the start-finish straight they come once more. This is first, second and third in the Pro Cup. Second, third and fourth overall. And Rast is having to watch his mirrors here, because Stippler is more than keen to get past. Stippler is ahead of Rast in the championship, and with his teammate in sixth place, it could become an inter-team battle for the overall championship. So every point is crucial for Frank Stippler, as well as René Rast.
Yeah, Stippler is, is able to drop back and then immediately close down to the tail. And it's just simply quite the pace of the BMW. René Rast has lost his natural pace. He's running at the BMW's pace, and Stippler is just falling back, closing up, falling back. And on one occasion, he'll time it right when he'll put his car alongside René Rast and take that position away. But then he'll be confronted with the same issue that Rast has got.
I clipped the chicane with the mirrors.
Nicky just admitting that he clipped the chicane with the wheel. He probably didn't mean to admit that to us, but thank you very much, Nicky. As he watches René Rast desperately try and get past Sergio Jimenez. Jimenez a little bit out of shape coming into the left-hander. Leaves the door a tiny bit open. I thought Rast might fancy a lunge, but he's a more sensible customer than that.
I mean, you cannot go for closing gaps, and that's a classic situation where a driver sticks his nose down the inside, and all happens is there's body contact, and you both are the losers. So just wait until the opportunity. You might be able to force it, as Stippler is doing right now with his own teammate. He's the driver I'm really watching, because at some point I believe he will get past René Rast.
It's interesting. It's an interesting prediction. So over the hill they come. Sergio Jimenez, no stranger to GT cars. He raced in the GT3 Brazil Championship last year. Finished third in the standings, driving a Mercedes with Matthias' team. Teammate was Paolo Roberto Bonifacio. Before that, he's done FIA GT1 in the past, back in 2010. Finished fourth in San Luis with Reiter in a Lamborghini alongside Frank Kettler. Before that, he's done GP2, Spanish Formula 3, Formula Renault UK back in 2003. He was Lewis Hamilton's teammate. Finished 11th in the standings that year whilst Hamilton won it. As they come through the right-hander at turn one. So Jimenez, a man with plenty of experience. As the Slovaks watch on here. As the cars head towards the Blancpain chicane once more for the 20th time. Jimenez kicking up a little bit of dust. As a result, covers the inside line. Is this? So I thought maybe Stippler was thinking about it, but he's got to. You can't take off your teammate.
No, don't take your teammate off. But I mean, he had a look down the inside.
Oh, and he's through. René Rast has got through into the lead of the Pro Cup. Is that a problem for the BMW? Because through as well now comes Frank Stippler and Sergio Jimenez from the lead of the Pro Cup. Was it a problem?
I think it looked like a mechanical or an issue. Suddenly, Rast gets through, and then immediately Stippler gets through. Now, whether he was just wrong-footed, whether he ran wide, picked up dirt on his tires, something caused the BMW to run much slower than it had been doing previously on that part of the racetrack. So it may just have been simply he ran wide, got his tires all clogged up. There you can see what's happening. Drivers running wide in the exit of turn 9, up the hill, throwing a lot of the very dry dust onto the racetrack, and of course that gets into the tread of the tire.
So Sergio Jimenez drops now behind René Rast and Frank Stippler, and this is on board with Frank Stippler. We exit the corner.
It's coming out of turn 3.
No, turn 3, and then
he
Rast
just
cruises past.
I mean, there's no obvious reason he didn't run wide. Stippler does the same into turn 5, and then this running into this very long. So, to me, there was an issue with the car. Now, unless the driver went to sleep and decided to wake up again, which I don't think was the case.
That was a very bizarre moment, wasn't it? And Audi now are first and second in the Pro Cup. Sergei Afanasiev continues to lead the race. You can see Marc Basseng in the pit lane in the background. He's obviously coming to the pits after his little moment. Whether that was cause or effect, I'm not sure, but with 13.5 minutes to go here, that's Dominic Baumann, currently second in class. And this is the battle over third place in the Pro-Am class. Fabio Anidi with Alex Buncombe right up behind him on the run down into the first corner. Buncombe's got good straight line speed, but he's not quite close enough at the moment.
And he's slightly late in the brakes, and consequently you can see just a little bit of bump coming out of turn 1.
So down into the right-hander, and look at this. That's Van Thor. He's got past Jimenez as well. So it's Audi 1, 2, 3 now in the Pro Cup, and Sergio Jimenez has dropped down into 5th place overall and 4th place in the Pro Cup. And we can now hear from his teammate, ex-Formula 1 driver Ricardo Zonta is down in the pits. Let's hear from Emily.
Ricardo, does Sergio have a problem?
No, we had a problem on the weekend. The practice, we didn't do any run before qualifying. So now Jimenez is just learning the track now. And the car is very quick. Of course, we could, if we had some practice, some more laps, we could fix some small issues on the balance of the car. But we are hoping to finish in the top 5. It will be very good for us.
Thank you.
Now you heard there, Zonta said Jimenez. I asked Sergio the first weekend in Nogaro, I said, you know, is it Jimenez or Jimenez? And he said, I don't mind, so I've gone for Jimenez.
Well, I mean, I would say Jimenez also, but it's Jimenez if they... Ricardo Zonta. I mean, I'm still slightly perplexed as to why the 3 Audis were able to get past the BMW relatively easily. There we see this battle going on for the Pro-Am Cup. And Alex Buncombe still all over the back of the Ferrari, not able to get the momentum that he needs. It's very strange. It didn't make sense. I mean, it was almost as if he just said, I've had enough pressure, go by, go by, go by. That isn't the case, clearly. But there's nothing to indicate. Now, the one thing that's going to happen is in the course of the race, if you've had very little running through the weekend, you have not maybe got the ideal balance into the car going into the race, and therefore what happens is it puts even greater load on how your tyres perform. And if you've used the best of the tyre by halfway through the race, 2/3 of the way through the race, there ain't any grip left. And I suspect for BMW and Jimenez, they've just run out of grip.
Yep, quite possibly. So they didn't do any running on Saturday morning yesterday because they had an engine misfire, which they couldn't solve in free practice 1. They ended up deciding it was a gearbox problem and changed the whole gearbox, and then finally got out for the qualifying session, literally just in time. And it's good to see that they're out there and they're doing very well. And here comes Alex Buncombe. He's got a great drive out of the chicane, and he's going to move up into second in Pro-Am. He runs wide. Can Anidi find the little nose to get back past? No, he can't. Buncombe is up into second in class, and that's not a place you expect to see a move.
No, but it was a good move. He was quicker through the chicane, but he got the run off the chicane, and that was what's going on at BMWs. They look awfully happy about something. The race is still on.
What was that? What has happened there?
Well, hopefully we'll find out from Emily. She goes down to the BMW pits. This is like their sort of carnival has broken out in the BMW pits.
Well,
or maybe it's a football result they've been just talking about.
yeah, quite possibly. So down into the right-hander come the 3 Audis, who continue to lead the Pro Cup. There's no doubt about it. But René Rast is under an awful lot of pressure here from Frank Stippler. Stippler is stuck with Rast, and now this battle is going to be on for the full 25 points in the Pro Cup. Only 0.3 of a second separating them.
Yeah, but there's traffic coming up. The Mercedes are going to be caught in a difficult place. They're going to be caught basically going into the chicane, and this will be the chance that We saw Alex Buncombe passing Anidi in the Ferrari. Well, this could be Stifler's chance if they catch these cars just on the exit of that chicane.
The BMW Team Brazil squad have just been informed that they have won the pit stop challenge, which involves being the quickest pit stop team and involves a nice... Oh, look at this! This is going to get a little bit close, isn't it? As they all try and fan out. Where's the room going to go? Stifler tries to slice through them, and somehow they remain in the same order as before, trying to get through those back markers. That was a nervy moment.
I thought it was going to be a problem. It turned out to be almost the big problem of the race. René Rast really concerned. Can you get past two Mercedes, each passing one another, and then your own teammate, Frank Stifler, right behind you?
But yes, it's a €2,000 prize fund for winning the pit stop team of the race, and that has to be shared between the mechanics. So that's why they were happy. A little bit of cash back.
There we go. Let's watch this exit. And you see Rast goes to the right, Stifler looks to go to the gap between the...
How did he get through? That was
because
four wide.
He just paced and there was enough room, but he didn't have quite the pace to get down the inside. René Rast, in fact, was clever. He went to the right-hand side of the track coming down the hill, and therefore nobody was going to pass him unless they went all the way around the outside.
René Rast continues to lead the Pro Cup. Second position overall. Sergei Afanasiev is running away with this race overall. A very impressive performance from him. Less than 8 minutes to go though here at the Slovakia ring, and the battle is on between these, well, three Audis now, because here comes Laurens Vanthoor to come and join the party. Moving back to that 2012 specifications worked a bit of a treat, doesn't it?
Well, it's not universally popular, but it has worked for Audi, and the reason they did it was because the 2013 spec then had its rear diffuser disallowed, had to be taken off, and consequently they had a car that was imbalanced and was tricky to drive, so they've gone back, and there's other options they were able to change at the same time, but that's been given the thumbs up, so they've suddenly regained the speed and performance that they ought to have had with the 2013 spec had they been allowed to retain the diffuser.
There's Ricardo Zonta. He's not partying, is he? He's reflecting on... Oh, and that was a run wide from René Rast, wasn't it, up at the front?
Yeah, I don't like it when they run that wide because it really blinds the following cars. You're not quite sure if there is a car in that cloud of dust or it's gone beyond it.
Jimenez doesn't need to worry about his current position. Mike Parisi's lost pace as well. He's been passed by Dominic Baumann in the Pro-Am class, so Mike Parisi is down to 7th place overall.
Just tyres. I just think that some cars are working the tyres differently to others, and some have got really good balance. I know that the McLaren is a quick car, but it is uncomfortable, particularly in the entry to a corner under brakes. I mean, you can see. Now watch. Rast goes to the right. Wow, what a manoeuvre! But he almost clipped the back of Rast as he made that pass, because Rast had to come back from the right to the middle of the track. I mean, that was... I say that's going to be on YouTube some stage, I would have thought.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure of it. There were 4 abreast at that point. Stephane Ortelli watching on the left-hand side. Vincent Voss, who we've spoken to already today, observing as well. Rast has managed to peg a bit of a gap now to Frank Stifler. 0.6 of a second, not a huge gap, but it's enough. Stifler then closes in sector 1. Rast closing in sector 2. That's the interesting thing as far as these cars are concerned, because you usually get cars are strong in certain sectors, but here Rast and Stifler are very evenly matched, but are doing very different sector times. As Sergei Afanasiev comes across the line then, and he's only got a 4-second lead now. He drives behind and lapping about 0.8 of a second quicker than Afanasiev, so it's not going to be enough, is it? Because we need about 4 or 5 laps.
It's not, and the pace that Afanasiev is driving at, he's driving all on his own. There's no pressure. He's not used the car hard. The tyres are therefore in good condition. So if he needs to up his pace, which he hasn't needed to do, he's just basically in control. And unless something unforeseen should happen in the remaining just under 5 minutes now, I can't see the two Audis. They may get closer, but they're not going to catch, let alone overtake.
There then is Fabio Anidi, who is now behind Alex Buncombe, as we saw that overtake for the final podium position in Pro-Am. Afanasiev has just done a personal best in sector 1, so he's got the call that he needs to keep it pegged.
And they're going to keep it around about 5 seconds if they can. They've got the car to do it. The car's been basically running on its own since the pit stops. So it's really just drive it home and don't do anything daft.
There's the leader of the gentleman class, Kaylee Rigola, performing very, very strongly. Rigolo, I should say, as he's had a very, very strong weekend, really. He managed to qualify the car well up the order in about 15th position, much higher than the rest of the gentlemen. And Rigolo, who's raced in Formula 3, Formula 3000, knows his way around a GT car now. 3.5 minutes to go. He is comfortably clear.
His best lap was actually 2:04.7, which is quicker than the best lap of the car that's leading, and only a tenth of a second or so slower than these Audis that we're watching right now.
Yeah, good effort from Rigolo, no doubt about that. As we watch the Audis, I think they've all chilled out a bit now, haven't they? As the gap come down at the lead of the race by another 0.4 of a second, so it's Afanasiev needs to keep it going, but apart from that, he should be fairly comfortable, has to be said. Frank Stippler running in second position in the Pro Cup, Vanthor behind in third, so it's actually going to close up all the Audis at the top of the Pro Cup, because the order in the championship is Vanthor, Stippler, Rast. The order in the race is Rast, Stippler, Vanthor, so everyone will kind of close in on everyone as they make their way down towards turn 3. This is Sergei Afanasiev, race leader, running out very, very wide. Takes a very wide line through there, doesn't he, Sergei? I don't know if that was intentional or not, but he's continuing at the head of this field. He was the young Russian protege of single-seaters, really. He won Formula Russia in 2004, finished second in International Formula Master in 2009. He was third in Formula 2 in 2010, behind Dean Stoneman, a very quick driver, and Jolyon Palmer, a GP2 race winner. So he's certainly got impressive credibilities, Afanasiev. But is there a final twist in this WRT tale? 1, 2, 3, as they ended up being in Nogaro in the opening race of the season. Will we have a similar story here in the Pro Cup? As they wind through the right-hander. It depends how WRT want to play it, though, don't they? Because Vanthor is currently leading the points, him and Stephane Ortelli, and he's third in this queue. But at the same time, the second-place man in the points is Edvard Sandstrom and Frank Stippler, who is there in second place in the queue. But equally, René Rast is proving here that he's a very quick driver as well. So really, at the end of this race, we're going to see absolute domination from WRT at the top of the championship standings. So there's so little, because their closest rivals, i.e. Alan Day and Maximilian Buch, and the Writer Engineering Lamborghini of Peter Cox and Stefan Racina, because they're out of the race, I'd say WRT are fairly indifferent as to who actually wins this race out of their 3 drivers, as long as they all come across the line, all 3 of them. Of course, Afanasiev is going to win the race overall and really put them in contention for the Pro-Am Cup. As they come over the crest of the hill, this is the final lap of the race. There's Andreas Simonsen, almost earning himself a smile. Look at this, Vanthor's through. Vanthor is past Stippler and up into second place in the Pro Cup. Now, was that a genuine move, or was that Stippler letting him go? I can't believe it would be the latter, because these two are the top 2 in the championship. So Vanthor is up into second now. Will we see René Rast back off? Perhaps. If Stippler let Vanthor through, it would make sense that Rast would let Vanthor through as well. But Stippler doesn't seem to be giving in that easily. Here they come, up towards the left-hander of turn 9. But our race leader, Sergei Afanasiev, having taken over from Andreas Simonsen, only has one more corner to complete now before he takes victory in the 4th round of the 2013 FIA GT Series. He's got a 4.1 second advantage over René Rast. And Andreas Simonsen took the car, moved it up into second place. Ortelli got a drive through. Sergei Afanasiev took over, and HDP are about to win the main race here. Fantastic victory for Afanasiev, but in the Pro Cup, it's a 1-2-3 for WRT Audi. Handshakes all around in the garage. Peter Charouz shaking hands. Fourth place in the Pro Cup goes the way of Sergio Jimenez, fifth place overall. There comes Dominic Baumann across the line in the Lamborghini, the Grasso Racing Lamborghini, to claim sixth overall and second in the Pro-Am class, and then Mike Parisi through. Here comes our final podium finisher in the Pro-Am class. It's Alex Buncombe and Wolfgang Wright. They'll be very happy with that performance, I imagine. Then Fabio Anidi comes through fourth in the Pro-Am class. Here's our gentleman winner, Michele Rugolo. Dowing on the throttle as he comes through, and he and Stanisvich have done a great job this weekend. It's great to have a second day, of course, of Ferrari out there. Look forward to seeing them for the rest of the season. And Michele Rugolo takes the checkered flag, and Matthias Stumpf, I think, or Patrick Kuhner, I should say, is still somewhere on the circuit out there. He's just coming to take the checkered flag in a few moments' time, but everyone else has finished, so Matthias Stumpf and Patrick Kuhner will finish 12th place and 5th in the Pro-Am Cup. But there's our race winner, Sergei Afanasiev. We didn't see much of him really in the second half of the race because he disappeared off up the road. The Audi started to close him in, but it wasn't enough. Second weekend in a row that HDP have taken the victory. It was Alan Day and Maximilian Buch last time out in Zandvoort, but it's Afanasiev and Andreas Simonsen who've done it here. And there is the 13 Audi of Frank Stippler, finishing third in the Pro Cup in the end after being overtaken by Laurens Vanthoor in the closing stages of that race. René Rast taking the win in the Pro Cup, which is great news for him and Nicky Meyer-Malnoff. We'll see how that affects the championship standings in a few moments' time. Here's a look at the replay. I think Vanthoor just sent it up the inside there. I don't know, it's difficult to tell from that, but that looks to me like a genuine overtake. Vanthoor taking second place in the Pro Cup towards the end of the race. But nevertheless, a superb performance from René Rast. He's driving on the grass there, but he's been quick all weekend. He's been quick for his entire life, really, René. He's won the Porsche Super Cup 3 times in a row in 2010, 11 and 12. In 2009 he was second in the Porsche Super Cup. He's been quick ever since he got into a VW Polo when he won the ADAC VW Polo Championship in 2005. Never been a single-seater racer, René Rast. Similar to Marc Basseng, he's gone straight into GT cars, and that certainly seems to be his home. There's Andreas Simonsen waiting for Afanasiev to come down the pit lane. The Audi flags are waving because it's a domination in the Pro Cup for WRT. There's René Rast climbing out of the car. Second on the road, but a win in Pro Cup is what matters. The full 25 points. René Rast and Nicky Meyer-Malnoff over the moon. There's our overall race winner, though. Sergei Afanasiev in the car. Andreas Simonsen opening the door. And what a fantastic performance that was from them. Bumps his head a bit on the way out, but there's Afanasiev, the young Russian driver. 25 years old. raced in FIA GT1 last year with the racing team Russia. Finished fourth in the Dubai 24 Hours earlier this year with Black Falcon in a Mercedes, so he knows his way around these machines. So fantastic victory from them, and we can now hear from Afanasiev and Simonsen. They're down in the pit lane, and look, there's John Watson.
Sergey, Andreas, winners overall, but winners of Pro-Am as well. How good is it today?
Cool. This guy done a great job on the start, and then I had just to keep it up, and I done it. That was cool.
It's really amazing for us. This is from the start, everything perfect. The team did a great job now. We finally got a good car, and it's just awesome.
Yeah. How's the start? It was a bit of a mess from everybody's point of view.
Yeah, it was really a mess because they were not doing the same speed as we're supposed to, and they went a bit early, and then it was just completely chaos. But for me, it was really good. I tried to take a bit of care in the beginning, but I got good speed, and I could almost overtake into first in the first corner. So for me, it was really good.
And Sergey, after the pit stop, all you had was clear racetrack, no one to race with.
There was a race with. There was a race with myself, actually. From the beginning of the season, the time we are here, I'm quite not confident with myself on this circuit because it's very slippery and I'm not confident with the car yet. It's my first season. But I'm amazed of the job of HTP Charouz guys. I'm really thankful to them. It's their job. Thanks to the engineers, thanks to the sponsors, thanks to SRO. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Well done. Congratulations.
Thanks.
He'll struggle to find a nicer chap than Sergey Afanasiev. Good fun as he goes off to get interviews with the rest of the TV crews around there in the scramble that is the Parc Fermé. But a fantastic performance from Afanasiev and Simonsen to take the victory. A Pro-Am car winning overall. We didn't know if we'd see it this season, but we have here. There's no doubt about it. It's a very strong performance from them. But in the Pro Cup, it's an Audi 1, 2, 3, and we can now hear from Laurens Vanthoor and Stephane Ortelli, who finished second in the Pro Cup and continue at the top of the championship.
Stefan, the question's got to be asked, what took place at the start?
Yeah, I think on a normal straight line, I mean, you actually look at your inside and you see the car, and I just mixed up a bit because it's a left corner before and I was inside. Of course, even if you go at the same speed, you are doing less travel, but I was not at the same speed. I was a bit quicker than Sebastien, and then I look at my mirror and I didn't see him. I went even down to first gear, so I was supposed to start in second and I didn't see him, so I went down to first gear and I was still looking in the mirror, and then I look at the start and I accelerate. I didn't see him, and it's 100% my fault.
Well, there was a bit of a mess behind you. Anyway, good race. Laurent, you drove your heart out there to close. I mean, 3 Audis, almost nose to tail.
I'm completely fucked. It was, yeah, unfortunately, we had a drive-through because if I made a small mistake, which can happen. I had already plenty this year, so that's life. And I was so pissed. I just wanted to kick everything out of the car and had fun, and I did that. It was a bit close with Frank in the last lap, but unfortunately he's a teammate and a championship contender, so I have to find a bit the midway to race against him. But we are P2 in the pro class, and I think we can more than be happy. We extended our lead in the championship, which is where we came for, so I'm happy.
Laurens, thank you, and apologies for misuse of language. I hope it didn't offend any of our audience. It was just in the heat of the moment, and this is what happens when you jump out of a racing car and the adrenaline is still flowing.
Yep, thank you very much for that, Watty. Again, apologies. I think it's probably more to do with being Belgian in Laurens Vanthoor than being a racing driver. He's a fun young man, is Laurens, but he's learned an awful lot of English words that he shouldn't have done, so apologies for that. So they finish second in the Pro Cup, third overall, but we can now hear from our Pro Cup winners. Brilliant drive from René Rast, no doubt a happy Nicky Mermelnoff.
Nicky, René, an interesting race, hard work all the way through.
Yeah, at the start it was, I had the feeling that there were a lot of cars going really quickly before the red light, but nothing I could do, and I tried to cover the inside, and then I was lucky to stay on the inside and not involved in the first crash. So, and then I tried to stay with the guys, and then was the safety car period, so there was nothing much I could do. I could only wait and bring the car safe to René, and then he did a fantastic job to go from 5 to 2, and he really had to fight hard because of also from the competition from their own team. But I'm extremely happy to finally have a win in the pro class in in this championship. So I'm really happy and excited, and I'm glad that we could finally pull it off together.
René, Frank Stippler gave you a good workout today, especially in the chicane about 5 laps from the end.
Yeah, that's true. We struggled a bit to the end, so we were good for the first 5 laps, and then we struggled a bit with the tire pressure, I think, so we have to improve that for the next race. But all in all, we can be very happy with second place and first place in the pro category. 25 points are a lot for the championship, and now we keep on fighting.
We're sure you will. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Great stuff from Rast and a very happy Nicky Meyer-Melnoff. They will make their way now up towards the podium for the ceremony after what has been a very, very entertaining weekend. And there, the top step of the podium are the Brazilian mechanics, because they have won the pit stop challenge, €2,000 going to the mechanics, and a fantastic performance from them, because when they came here, pit stops was something they really needed to get used to. The pit stop standards are so high here in FIA GT. Here's the results then. The Pro-Am car winning the race in the hands of Sergei Afanasiev and Andreas Simonsen. 4.1 seconds clear of Nicky Meyer-Melnoff and René Rast, Stephane Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor. Third overall, second in class. Sandstrom and Stippler, I think they'll be frustrated. They could have got second place overall in the winning class, but they've ended up third. Zonta and Jimenez, no doubt delighted with their performance. Best result of the season so far for the BMW Team Brazil squad. Only 17 finishes in the end, or sorry, only 14 finishes in the end after various incidents. Marc Basseng had to park his car, as did Carlos Vieira. So those are the race results, and this is what it does to the championship standings. Stephane Ortelli still at the top on 94 points. A good 19 points clear now of Sandstrom and Stippler. Meyer-Melnoff and Rast are now into third place in the championship. So it's WRT 1, 2, 3. Max Boog and Alan Day will be ruining their non-finish from a good position. Parisi and Zuber are now into fifth place in the championship overall, with Cox and Messina sixth. So there's the podium here at the Slovakia ring. The crowd gathered, the media gathered, the teams gathered, all waiting for it to kick off. The top step of the podium here at the Slovakia ring, just outside Orachova Poten, about 45 minutes outside of Bratislava. Great little city, Bratislava. Used to be the capital of the Hungarian kingdom back in the day, but now it's just the capital of Slovakia. There are our podium finishers all being collected backstage, if you will. René Rast climbs out and onto the top step of the podium. He and Nicky Meyer-Melnoff finishing in first position. We're going to get used to that silver and red, because second place is Stephane Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor. And in third position, we've got Frank Stippler and Edvard Sandstrom onto the podium. And as ever, it's the Belgian national anthem. So the top three, or the top six I should say, on the podium, and Nicky Meyer-Melnoff puts on his shades as the trophies are presented. Two at once, that's very efficient, as has been the operation here at the Slovakia ring. It's a brilliant circuit to come to. And here comes the winner's trophy into the hands of Nicky Meyer-Melnoff and René Rast. Brilliant performance from them. Really impressive drive. Perhaps more so from Laurens Vanthoor. Maybe he'd be your driver of the race after recovering from a drive-through penalty to go on to win the race. To finish in second place, I should say, in the Pro Cup. So a fantastic weekend of racing. The champagne is sprayed here in Slovakia, and The next round will be in Navarra in a few weeks' time. Make sure you join us for it. It's Laurens Vanthoor and Stephane Ortelli at the top of the championship. From myself, Jack Nicholls, Emily Groom in the pit lane, and John Watson, who's been alongside me. We will see you in Navarra in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you very much for joining us.